Madden is a game of knowledge. Not just your knowledge of football, but your knowledge of the fundamental mechanics of the game itself. So in this video, I'm giving you guys even more knowledge with 8 pro tips every Madden player should know, and I promise that implementing these strategies will win you more games. So if that sounds good to you, then let's get started. So pro tip number 1 is use comeback routes to elevate your passing game. I was talking to a top 10 player in the world a few weeks ago, and he told me that he thinks comeback routes are the most underrated route in the entire game. So right here on the left side, I've got Jalen McMillan on a comeback route. Right here, we're against cover 1. And what we're going to see after we snap this ball is that the comeback route is going to absolutely obliterate the man coverage. We just have to wait for him to get through his break, pass lead that ball down and outside. You may be saying, okay, that's cool and everything. Comeback routes beat man coverage. So what? Well, they also beat zone coverage as well. And we can throw these comeback routes underneath any defenders in outside thirds and outside quarters as well. So right here, I now have the defense in cover 3. And what we're going to see is that once again, when I snap this ball, after he gets through that break, we can pass lead our throw down and outside, possession catch along the sidelines, and we've got an easy completion. It's not just cover 3. Let's go to cover 4. Here's a cover 4 shaded down. We can do the exact same thing. We're going to go ahead and snap this ball. We're going to wait for him to get through his break. Once he gets through that break, we're going to pass lead the throw down outside, and I threw it a little bit late, so that was kind of on me, but it was still a completion. And so comeback routes are extremely powerful for attacking the deep sideline, and you also can do something really cool with them that I don't see a lot of people doing. You can actually custom stem these comeback routes as well. And so let's say you're in a tough situation. Let's say you're in like a 3rd and 20. Well, you can custom stem. And so to custom stem, you're going to press wired triangle to pull up your hot routes menu, select your receiver. For me, that's going to be X, Jalen McMillan. You're going to hold LB or L1. Then you're going to press up on the D-pad or up on the left stick. And it's glitching out for us. But if I reset the play art, you can see that I just custom stemmed this comeback route to break 30 yards deep. Now, obviously, that's pretty deep. And so we'll see if the O-line wants to hold up for us. But if it holds up, we're going to have an incredible 30-yard man beater as he makes his break. We just possession catch it again, and look at that. I have used smart routed and custom stemmed comeback routes in so many situations where I was in a tough 3rd and long, 4th and long, and they come through for me every time. And again, they work against zone coverage as well. We can go ahead and do the exact same thing. We can custom stem it up against zone, and I'm really not sure if the O-line will hold up, but here we go against cover 3. We can run this once again. We just need to have some time in the pocket, let him get through his break, get that ball off, and we're able to get it in there. And so you guys can see the power of comeback routes for attacking deep along the sideline. Now, the other thing that makes comeback routes extremely powerful is that we can use them to build one-play touchdowns. And so right here, I'm going to go to a different formation. I'm going to go to Trips X Nasty, which is one of my favorite formations in the entire game. And we'll keep the defense in cover 3 sky for now. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to build a cover 3 bomb. I'm also going to move us back 10 yards so that we have plenty of space to work with. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my solo receiver on a post. I'm going to block my running back so we have a little bit of extra time to throw. I'm going to put our outside receiver, in this case Mike Evans, on a comeback route. And I'm going to put my inside trips receiver on a streak. And then the final guy, Chris Godwin, we'll just put him on a drag. It doesn't really matter. This is how we're going to build a cover 3 bomb. And this is a pretty universal concept throughout the game of using a comeback route, a streak, and a post to build a cover 3 or a cover 4 bomb. And so what's going to happen is the comeback route is going to hold down the outside cornerback who's in the outside third. The streak is going to hold the safety who's in the middle third, and it's going to leave our post completely unguarded for a one-play touchdown. All we need is for the O-line to hold their blocks. And so if we snap this ball, if we just have a second or two in the pocket, you can see that our post is going to get wide open for a huge one-play touchdown. And I did pass lead it to the outside to keep it away from the safety in the middle third. But this is the other way that comeback routes are so insanely powerful. Not only do they allow us to attack the sidelines deep, but they also open up our one-play touchdowns. You can see right here how the comeback route pulls down the third, and the third is just completely oblivious to the post running over the top of him. By the time he's trying to react, the ball is already in the air, and it is way too late, and we have an easy one-play touchdown. And again, you can do that route combo. It doesn't have to be in a trips formation, but pretty much any combo of having a comeback route on one side of the field a streak somewhere near the middle of the field, and then a post coming from the other side of the field is going to be incredible for bombing both cover 3 and cover 4 drop for a one-play touchdown. And so because of how powerful and how versatile they are, I strongly recommend that you start using comeback routes in your online games. Now, real quick, guys, I wanted to let you know that if you want to be among the first people to learn every new advanced Madden tip as soon as we find it, then you need to join our community at playbookprofessor.gg. A lot of the tips that we're covering in this video are strategies that our members have been using for months now. They learn them in the film room section of our site, where we post 4 new advanced Madden tips every single week. 97% of our members say they won more games after joining, so if you're tired of losing and you're ready to take your game to the next level, we'll see you over there at playbookprofessor.gg. But that brings us to pro tip number 2, which is that engage blitzes are the most powerful type of blitz right now in Madden 25. And this is a very basic look at what it's going to look like, and then we'll talk about how to run it and also how to make it way better and give us more coverage all over the field. But if we go ahead and snap this ball, we're just going to engage with a guard and get a linebacker to come in free. And so let's talk about what are we doing to get this engage blitz to work. Well, first off, you can do this in a lot of different formations. You can do this in the nickel 3-3 formation. You can do this in the dime 3-2 formation. But right here, I am in the dime 1-4 formation. I just think that it's the best formation for getting a lot of different glitchy blitzes in the game. And that's why I did our Chargers defensive ebook focusing on the dime 1-4 formation. But if we go ahead into the play call screen really quick, we can see that in our coaching adjustments, we are going to have our auto flip turned off and have our alignment on base. And then we are also going to sub in fast and maybe ideally even small safeties at these 2 linebacker positions right here. And that's just important because sometimes if the gap is small, a smaller player has a better chance of fitting through the gap compared to a big, bulky linebacker. Now you can call any play for this, but I like doing it out of the play cover 4 drop. And then we can put the defense in, or put the offense in whatever, it doesn't really matter. Now, before the snap, the adjustments are pretty straightforward. You're just going to blitz all linebackers, which is right on the D-pad, down the right stick, and then you're going to walk one of your linebackers, and it can be either one, but you're going to walk him across the formation and stand on the outside hip of the guard. And so what's going to happen is if we just don't press anything, after the snap, your user is going to engage that lineman, and then you can turn around, get into coverage, and you have a crazy fast sack. Now you may be saying, that's cool that it's really fast pressure, but that doesn't look like very good coverage on the field. I mean, your user's on the line and you're sending 5. This is where we can start dropping other guys into coverage. And so what you can do if you want is you can drop off the defensive end on the opposite side of the blitz. And so we can use quick adjustments. We can double tap left on the D-pad to pull up our D lineman icons. And so I'll press A and I'll put this guy on the outside in a vert hook. And so now all of a sudden he's got the short middle on the right side covered, and my user can take the left middle. We can also, of course, shade down if we really want to and guard the hard flats. And so now what you're going to see is when we snap this ball, we are getting crazy fast pressure on a 3-man rush. We just sent 3 players and had a guy come in completely unblocked. Let's think about this again. We have 8 people on the field that are in coverage. We're only sending 3. You say maybe 3.5 because our user did have to engage. But look at this right here. We have a defender coming in free. Everything is covered. We have cover 4 with 2 guys guarding over the middle. That is really, really powerful. And it doesn't have to be the outside player who you drop off either. We can also drop off the defensive tackle if we really want to. If you want to take our big defensive tackle here and put him in a hook curl on the right, you can put him on that. And because of the play art, it glitches out. It looks like that. But he's supposed to be in a hook curl on the right based on what the menu says. And so let's try, maybe we'll do a vert hook right. Will that work better? And no, so the play art on the defensive tackles is just entirely glitched out. Classic EA. And so we'll just go ahead and leave him on that. But once again, you can see that we engage that guard. The linebacker, he got picked up, which is actually not going to happen very often. We can go ahead and run that again real quick. So we'll go ahead and put our defensive tackle on the hook curl. Again, that is pretty rare seeing that happen right there, but we can go ahead and see that this time it comes in and our defensive tackle just refuses to play in an actual hook curl. And so as you can see, if you want good coverage, you're probably better off dropping off the defensive end versus the defensive tackle. I mean, I don't really think that, I don't know if number 95 right here is going to do that great in coverage anyway, but you can if you want to. That's what's so cool about this engage blitz is you get a 3-man rush, you get someone coming in completely unblocked, and you can drop 8 people into coverage. And remember, it works on the other side as well. And so we can go ahead and blitz all linebackers. We can go ahead and do it on this side this time, get on the outside hip, just go ahead and let that ball get hiked, engage, and you've got a guy coming in on that side. And so engage blitzes are really, really strong right now. And just like we saw before, we could, of course, drop off the left side defensive end as well. And, you know, I know we're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, but I want you guys to see just how powerful these blitzes are. And so right there, even though he got picked up, he had such good leverage that he still came in anyway. Like, that will happen sometimes, but when you look at the leverage that the rusher's going to have against the O lineman, I mean, he's not going to hold that block for very long anyway. And so, yeah, it got hung up for just a second, but it's still coming in super fast. Now, the one thing I should mention is that some people prefer to run this with putting their user back on a zone assignment, and that allows them to switch stick after the snap. That can work, but you also have to be mindful that it's going to be a lot tougher for you to get the engage. When you have your user on the zone assignment, sometimes the O-line does a better job at kicking over and picking up the blitzing linebacker. And so if we go ahead and try to run it right here, you see at this time it did work. And so we are able to have our user on a blitz assignment. It gives us the option to switch stick around after the snap. But I'm just telling you from experience that it does make it a little bit tougher to get this engage blitz to work. And so if you want the easiest way possible for the engage to work, keep your user on a blitz assignment. And I know that you lose out on switch sticking, so it's kind of a trade-off. It depends on which you would prefer. But if you want to have the highest rate possible of getting this blitz to come in, have the user on a blitz assignment, and then your engage blitz is going to be coming in like crazy. And so that is the engage blitz. If you're not running it yet, definitely start running it because it is everywhere online. It's extremely powerful and extremely tough to block, and it will give your opponent on offense absolute nightmares. And with that, we can move on to pro tip number 3, which is know how to shut down the goal line formation. If your opponent gets down on the 1-yard line or inside the 1-yard line, there is a super high likelihood that they're trying to punch the ball into the end zone with either QB sneak or fullback dive. If you don't have the right setup, then they're probably going to be successful. But with the right setup, when they run that QB sneak, they're going to be getting completely shut down and maybe even taking a loss. So let's talk about how we can do this. Now, the biggest secret of this, guys, is that most people use the wrong goal line formation. And so let me get the defense in QB sneak. Let's talk about what most people do. Most people are in the play call screen and they go down to goal line and they call play right here. But goal line 6-2 is the wrong goal line formation. If you look at the tab in the upper left, there's another goal line formation. It is goal line 5-3, and that is the formation that we want to be in. And so right here, you just press LB or L1 to move over to goal line 5-3. If you're on this screen, just press right or left on the D-pad and it'll take you to goal line 5-3. And the reason we need to be in goal line 5-3 is because we'll have a true nose tackle in this formation. When we're in goal line 6-2, you don't have a true nose tackle lined up directly over the center, but in goal line 5-3, you do. And so the adjustments before the snap are going to be to pinch your D-line, which is left on the D-pad, down on the left stick, and slant your D-line inside, which is left on the D-pad, down on the right stick, and then take your user, who will be the middle linebacker right here, and just stand in the gap right here. And when your opponent snaps the ball, you're going to be all over them. They might even take a loss, and that is an easy stop. And you may be saying, well, what if they just flip their play? What if they just flip the QB sneak to go into the other gap? And so I'm trying to flip it to the left right here. There we go. If they flip it to the other gap, well, guess what? They are still going to get stopped. We have too many guys here in the middle of the field for them to successfully run a QB sneak. They're going to have nowhere to go. Make sure you're not offsides, of course. That is a one caveat, is don't be offsides. But you can see right here that if you're in goal line 5-3, pinch the D-line, slant inside, and hover with your user in that gap, they're going to have nowhere to run for their QB sneak. Well, maybe they try fullback dive. Let's see how fullback dive does. And right here, there is a glitch in practice mode where the nose tackle likes to slide back for some reason. And so I was just trying to make sure he's not sliding back on us. But if we go ahead and look at fullback dive, what you're going to see is that they run fullback dive to the right. Same thing, we are going to be in the backfield. We have a D tackle come in completely unblocked. If they run fullback dive, but they run it to the left, we'll go to the left in this case, away from where our user is in the gap. We can see that after the snap. Oh, that was QB sneak. I thought I audibled. Sorry about that. Well, you can see that just another rep that the QB sneak is completely bagged. But if we go ahead and run fullback dive going to the left, then what you're going to see this time is that once again, we're so in the backfield that we tackle the quarterback. That won't happen every time, of course, but it has a chance of happening. Apparently, I really did not expect that one to happen at all, but we'll take it. Here is another fullback dive going to the left. And once again, I mean, guys, hopefully you guys can see just how good this defense is being in goal line 5-3, but it absolutely has to be goal line 5-3. You have to have this nose tackle here in front of the center. That is the key to all of this. And then finally, if you want one more rep, we can put them in like power O or something. Say, okay, let's run outside a little bit. But it doesn't matter because even here, we are going to have people everywhere. There's just so many defenders and you're going to be cleaning them up and they just have nowhere to go. And so if you don't know how to stop people when they're down near the goal line, then you're going to give up easy touchdowns. But if you can start shutting them down when they're down near the goal line by being in goal line 5-3, pinching, slanting inside, and getting the gap right here, it is going to make it so much tougher for your opponent to score when they get inside the 1 or 2 yard line. And when they can't use their QB sneaks or their fullback dives, a lot of people don't have other good red zone plays to punch the ball into the end zone. And if you can keep your opponent out of the end zone, then of course, that is going to help you win more Madden games. Now, moving on to pro tip number 4, we have don't ever use the shade over top coverage adjustment. And it's especially important for zone coverage. And I'm going to show you guys why right now. We have our slot cornerback here in a 25-yard curl flat. And usually these routes should guard corner routes really well. But because I'm going to shade up, it's actually going to completely change how that slot cornerback drops back. He's going to drop back super slow and allow me to easily throw this corner route for an easy catch along the sidelines. And as a reference, what I'm going to show you guys now is what that exact same zone looks like if I don't shade up. So this is just the 25-yard curl flat without shading up, and watch how different this slot cornerback is going to play. He's going to get way back, and he is going to be all over this corner route, and he even gets an interception. So all that was different between these two plays is that in the first rep, and I'm going to do it again right here, I'm going to shade my coverage up. And so what happens when you shade your coverage up is that it's going to cause any of your defenders in flat zones to do a super slow drop back, and it prevents them from getting to their spot on the field. And this is, I think, unintentional by EA because this wasn't in the game in previous years, but it's something that you guys need to know. Look at how he's just doing a super slow drop back. He's not actually getting to his spot. Again, he is a 25-yard curl flat. He is supposed to be guarding deep 25 yards on the outside, but instead he's letting the corner route run right past him, and he's not actually playing his zone. But, and I know we're running the same thing over and over again, but I think it's really important for you guys to see how different it is and how much of a difference it makes. Same thing, 25-yard curl flat, but we're not going to shade back. And again, look at how much quicker he's going to get back. And now he's actually playing coverage and almost intercepting it once again. It is a night and day difference. And so I talked to so many players in our Discord who they're like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, I'm playing cover 3, cover 4, I'm shading over top. The moment I see that, I'm like, please don't shade over top. Unless you want to just leave the sidelines completely unguarded, don't shade over top, because when you don't shade over top, now your zone drop flat defenders, they will actually turn and run. Instead of doing like that slow back pedal, they will actually turn and run and get to their spot on the field and actually play coverage. And so please don't ever shade up. And just so everyone knows, the shade up or the shade over top adjustment is to press wire triangle and up on the right stick. It is called over top in coverage adjustments. Most people just refer to it as shading up, but shade up, shade over top, same thing. And so you should never ever shade your coverage over top. And to be clear, guys, the deep blue zones on the field, like this, outside third or this middle third, they are unaffected by shading your coverage up. It's not like shading up or shading over top is going to make these guys play deeper or not get beat by streaks. These guys are completely unaffected by shading. You can shade in any direction you want, and these guys are going to play exactly the same. So don't think that you have to shade over top to avoid getting beat by streaks. If they're going to get beat by a streak, then they're going to get beat regardless of what direction you're shading. And so it's extremely important that you guys know that, especially in zone coverage, that you don't shade your coverage up. However, this tip also applies to man coverage as well. This tip just applies to everything. You should really just never be shading over top at all in any way. And so right here, we'll now go to cover 1, if I can find cover 1, and we'll go ahead and just call random play. And now the next thing you need to know is that when you shade your coverage up, it's also going to make your man coverage play way worse as well. And so what I want to look at on this play is Chris Godwin on the slant on the left side slot. And we'll just kind of clear everyone else out so we can just focus on him. And so again, the defense is in cover 1 right here. And without any shading, the defender is going to give him a little bit of a chuck off the line. And Chris Godwin is not really open. And Chris Godwin's a pretty good route runner too. But he was kind of completely bagged that entire time. And of course, it didn't help that this 3-rec was kind of bracketing him. So we'll kind of just QB spy him out this time. But if we run the exact same thing, if we put the exact same route combo on the field, but this time we shade our coverage over top, now Chris Godwin in the slot is going to get a free release, and he is going to absolutely cook the defender, especially because he has the slot-o-matic ability. If we go ahead and watch this, look at Chris Godwin absolutely annihilate him on the man coverage. And so shading over top is a not very good adjustment, whether you're in man coverage or zone coverage. Now, obviously, if you are in cover 1 and you decide to like press up on the line, like in this case, you have to shade over top, because if you don't shade over top, then one of the guys on the outside probably will get free for a streak and a 1-play touchdown. But you have to keep in mind that when you shade over top, you are going to give free releases. You're going to let people win on the breaks on their routes. And it's just not really a good way to play defense, in my opinion. And so whether it is man coverage or zone coverage, I really wouldn't recommend ever shading over top. Again, if you are going to run a super aggressive cover 0 or cover 1 blitz, then yeah, that is the one time that you would do it. But outside of those very specific instances, the shade over top adjustment really isn't going to do anything good for you. It's going to mess up your zone coverage flats. It's going to make your man coverage play way worse. And overall, it's just going to make life way easier for your opponent on offense. And so that's why we should not ever be using the shade over top adjustment in Madden 25. Now let's move on to pro tip number 5, which is know how to destroy cover 2 man. Cover 2 man tends to be the coverage that gives Madden players issues more than any other coverage in the game. And I get it. It can be tough at times when your opponent is jamming your receivers at the line, when they're shading their man coverage down, and they have 2 deep safeties over top. It can be tough to get people open in the passing game. But right here, I'm going to show you guys my 3 favorite methods for getting people open against cover 2 man. And we're going to do that using the play slot fade H wheel. I'm in the gun trips X nasty formation in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive playbook. And this is one of my favorite plays in the entire game. It was our base play of our Buccaneers offense ebook. And I love this play so much that it is literally on the homepage of our website. So I absolutely love it. And it's because it's just so full of incredibly powerful and incredibly glitchy routes. But the first route we're gonna look at is the slot fade on the right side of the field. And so my first way that I love to destroy cover 2 man is with a streak combined with a slot fade. And so we've talked about this in some videos before. And so what's gonna happen is when we run this route combo, the streak's job is mainly just to hold the safety in the deep half inside. And then what we're going to see is that slot fades have a really good chance of winning against pressed man coverage, where they're getting jammed at the line. And sometimes they get a super win animation. They won't get the super win every time. And even if they don't get the super win, we can still throw it. But when they do get the super win, it's even easier to throw. And so we're not worried about the left side of the play right now. We're just looking at the streak and the slot fade route combo. If we go ahead and snap the ball, what we're going to see is that if we freeform this ball to the outside, we have, what was that, 38 yards, almost a 1-play touchdown. And so let's go ahead and watch the replay right here. Like we talked about, the job of the streak is to hold the deep half inside. It's basically making sure, and really the deep half didn't even pull inside that much. It just kind of shows how powerful the slot fade is anyway. But the important part of the play is understanding what happens with slot fades whenever they are getting jammed at the line. And so right here, if you see this animation where the defensive back is kind of riding his shoulder, that means there's a very high likelihood he's going to get the super win animation once he gets out of this jam animation. So right here is where he gets the separation. You see that the defender's going to ride him for a few seconds, and then he gets the separation right here. And now this is where we can let it loose. But it's important on this throw, guys. I did freeform this pass to the outside. And so we'll talk about freeforming in just a second. But freeforming the pass outside is how you can ensure that you put the ball over the top of the underneath defender and also outside the safety. And so the way we freeform is that, well, we'll talk about the settings in just a second, but assuming your settings are set up correctly, you're going to hold the left trigger or L2 when you pass lead the ball, and that's going to allow you to put the ball beyond the normal pass lead radius. And so right there, the tight end on the streak was kind of, I don't know why he was in our way. Doesn't matter. Once again, we were able to freeform to the slot fade for the easy touchdown. Now let's talk about the settings we need for freeforming. In your game settings, you need your passing type to be on placement and accuracy or placement. Either of those works. Now the most important thing is that your pass lead increase needs to be on small. A lot of people, they think they're freeforming, but they have their pass lead increase set to none. This is determining the amount of distance outside of the shaded ellipse that you can freeform. If you have it on none, you're telling the game, hey, I don't want to be able to freeform any distance that appears around the receiver whenever you throw him the ball. But if we have it on small, that will allow us to put the ball beyond the shaded ellipse, and that is what makes our freeforming so effective. And so let's do another rep real quick. On this right side, we have the streak, we have the slot fade. So right here, this is a perfect example of where he didn't get the super win animation, but we can still freeform the pass up and over the top. Like I said, the super win won't happen every single time, but even when we don't get that super win, because we still have leverage over the top, even though the defender is much closer on us this time, you can still freeform this up and outside and catch it over the top along the sidelines. And so slot fades are without a doubt my favorite method for beating cover 2 man. I've been using them all year. They have been so incredibly effective for me. And I mean, I could just run reps thrown to the slot fade over and over again. And like I said, even when the separation doesn't seem like it's really there, if you freeform the pass, it is really there. I mean, I don't know how many reps in a row that was, but we just went like 5 for 5 throwing to the slot fade over the top against cover 2 man. And so that's why slot fades are our first method for destroying cover 2 man. But now moving on to our second method for destroying cover 2 man, we're going to have double drags. And we can do this in literally any formation in the game. Double drags, I think, have been popular for as long as Madden has existed. And it's pretty straightforward. You send 2 drags over the middle, and especially when they're jamming, they're trying to press your receivers at the line, all of that bumping, all that chaos over the middle is pretty much always going to get somebody open. Double drags, whether it is cover 1, cover 2 man, whatever it is, you pick any 2 guys and put them on double drags, and you will almost always get someone open. We'll just go ahead, we can just do 2 streaks here, just 2 clear outs, and there is a very high likelihood that someone is going to get open. Now, the pass lead is, of course, important. So on those last 2 plays, if I didn't pass lead it outside, there, of course, would be a chance of that defender undercutting the ball for an interception, which is obviously not what we want. But as long as you pass the ball outside, and so right there, unfortunately, with the bumping, it was not open. Now that's going to be, I would say, the rare case. That's not going to be what happens most of the time. But we'll go ahead and run some more reps of this real quick. Most of the time, you're going to get someone open, and that's really right there what you're going for. Is when you run double drags over the middle and they're trying to jam you at the line, there is a super high likelihood that a defender is just going to he's just going to run into someone. And so right here, they just ran into each other. I mean, we had both guys wide open. And so that's really what you're going for when you run the double drags. So like we saw, like nothing is 100%. And of course, like I'm also just only running the drags with nothing else. You would of course put other routes on the field as well. You would of course run some kind of backside dig. You could run a comeback route if you want. There are of course other things that you can do to get your routes open. But as long as you pass lead that ball outside, the double drags is going to do a really good job of getting someone open. And when you just spam the double drags over and over again, there's probably a good chance that your opponents could be like, all right, you know what? I don't really want to be in cover 2 man. I don't want to keep dealing with double drags crossing over the middle and getting someone open. And so double drags is one of the easiest ways to get people opening as cover 2 man in literally any formation, just because of the very nature of it, just the crossing over the middle. Those defenders have a very high likelihood of bumping into each other, and you're going to get someone open on almost every single rep. And now we can talk about the third way to destroy cover 2 man, which is going to be running back wheel routes, and ideally a running back wheel route paired with a streak on the same side of the field. And so what's going to happen is the streak is going to occupy the safety in the deep half on that side, and it's going to give us a huge window to throw to the running back wheel route. Now, the other reason that I love running back wheel routes is that if your opponent is running cover 2 man, they have to decide, are they going to user the running back themselves and send a 4-man rush? And so in this particular case, it would be this guy would, I assume, be the user, and therefore he would have to manually go guard the running back wheel route, allowing us to get stuff open over the middle, like double drags. Or what you're probably more likely going to see, if we go ahead and just change formations really quick, what you're most likely going to see is that your opponent will have to just run a 3-down lineman set. So like something like, dime 1-4, cover 2 man. And so now they at least get a user in the middle of the field that doesn't have to guard a running back. But there's all kinds of other issues. So maybe they would set something up like this to where the guy guarding the running back is going to be on the left side. But now it's just a 3-man rush. And so you're going to have all the time in the world to make your throw. And if we go ahead and snap this ball for the running back wheel route, what you're going to see is that as he turns upfield, he just absolutely cooks the linebacker. And how well he does against the linebacker definitely depends on where the linebacker lines up. So like if the linebacker, if we look at right here, the linebacker by default is manned up on him from the other side. And so this might weirdly do a slightly better job of guarding the wheel route, but at the same time, you could just throw it early as well. Like the running back wheel route just presents so many issues if your opponent wants to run cover 2 man. Now you may be saying, oh, but I don't have a play that has a running back wheel route. Now here is a real money tip for you guys if you've been sticking around and watching this long. So let's say you don't have a running back wheel route. Let's say you just have a blocked running back. If you're in a formation where you can motion your running back out to an outside receiver spot, go ahead and put your running back on a fade, which is up on the left stick from the hot routes menu. And then when you motion him back in, he will now be on a wheel route. This is a glitch in the game that I think a lot of people don't know about. And that's how you can get a running back wheel route on most plays or most formations in the game. So you can snap the ball, you've got your running back wheel route, and in this particular case, again, like the defender was lined up on the wrong side. But regardless of which side the linebacker lines up on, these running back wheel routes absolutely destroy cover 2 man. So please use them in your online games. Now moving on to pro tip number 6, we have used 4x1 sets to turn off match coverage logic. And this specifically applies to cover 4 match, like cover 4 quarters and cover 4 palms. And so let's talk about what exactly that all means. So first off, as hopefully everyone already knows, there are plays in the game that utilize match coverage. And in match coverage, what happens is defenders have different assignments based on the numbering of the offensive formation. And not just the numbering, but also what routes each number actually runs. Now, the way the numbering works is you count outside in on each side of the quarterback. And so on the right side of the offense, this outside receiver is going to be the number 1, this middle receiver is going to be the number 2, and this inside receiver is going to be the number 3. Now, we don't have time to go into all the nuances and intricacies of match coverage. I mean, that could be an entire video on its own, but all you guys need to know is that players are numbered 1, 2, or 3, counting outside in, and defenders have different assignments based on what each of those players do. So if we were to go ahead and build a flood concept on the right side of the field, and the defense here is in cover 4 palms, the way the match coverage is going to shake out, this route combo is going to get completely bagged. You can see that each player gets matched onto, and even if we try to throw the corner route, we can see that because of the match coverage logic, the inside quarter matched onto the corner route from our number 3 receiver, and they got an easy interception. And so you might be saying, wow, match coverage seems really, really powerful. Like, how do I beat that? And there are lots of ways to beat match coverage, but the single easiest way is to go to a 4x1 set. And what I mean by 4x1 is having 4 receiving threats on the same side of the quarterback. So remember our numbering system. We are counting outside in, and we are counting on each side of the quarterback. And so if we can get 4 receiving threats on the same side of the quarterback, there are going to be too many receiving threats for the defenders to properly follow their match coverage assignments, and they are instead going to revert to drop zone coverage. And so they're going to be lined up in cover 4 palms, but if you can get into a 4x1 set, they are just going to play cover 4 drop. They are just going to play the exact zones that they are shown playing here on the field. They are not going to match. You may be saying, okay, well, how do I get a 4x1 set? Well, some formations in the game naturally have 4 receiving threats on the same side of the quarterback. But a super easy thing that we can do in this particular case here in Gun Trips Halfback Week is just motion our running back over. Now this is a 4x1 set. And now when we snap this ball, you're going to see these defenders are not matching on, and we have a super easy completion to our corner route on the outside. It was that simple. That is the difference between being in 4x1 and not being in 4x1 when you're going against match coverage. If you're not in 4x1 and your opponent has the right match coverage play dialed up, that is going to be either very tight coverage or an interception right there. Somehow we completed that, even though it really shouldn't have been completed because like the match coverage played pretty well. This time you can see, of course, that is an interception because we are not in 4x1. But all you have to do, oh, we locked up for a sec. All you have to do is just motion the running back across, and now you're in 4x1, and now you have easy completions to really wherever you want because it's super easy to beat cover 4 drop with simple zone beating concepts. And there are lots of natural 4x1 formations in the game as well. If you guys are familiar with Gun Bunch Strong Nasty, that's 4x1. You have 3 receivers on the right side of the quarterback and the running back on the right side of the quarterback. You could go bunch Y flex and motion the running back over. You could go bunch tight end and motion the running back over. You could go with gun trips right here, and you are naturally in a 4x1 already. And so if we go ahead and call cover 4 palms once again, you don't even have to use motion this time, and you're going to be in a 4x1 set. And so there are, of course, other ways to beat match coverage, and we can talk about those in future videos if you guys want. But going 4x1 is by far the easiest way to where if you've got someone who is just sitting in cover 4 palms, cover 4 quarters, and it's just like, damn, these guys, they're stuck to me like glue. I don't know how to get them off. Just go 4x1 and you will absolutely obliterate their match coverage because it won't be match coverage anymore. It's just going to be normal drop zone coverage. And beating drop zone coverage is probably the easiest thing to do in all of Madden. Just use your flood concepts, use your high lows, and they're very quickly going to have to adjust on the defensive side of the ball. And so go 4x1 and you'll never have to worry about cover 4 match ever again. Now we can move on to pro tip number 7, which is know the 2 methods for blocking loop blitzes. Loop blitzes are all over the place in Madden 25, and this right here in the play cross 3 fire is one of the most popular loop blitzes in the entire game that we teach in our Chargers defensive ebook. And if you don't know how to block a loop blitz, you're going to be in for a world of hurt because loop blitzes are really, really good. It gets linebackers. I'm laughing because it's just so ridiculous how easily the loop blitz comes in. And so if you don't know how to block this, you are just going to have a really frustrating time playing Madden. But fortunately, I'm here to tell you guys that if your opponent is loop blitzing, there are 2 super easy solutions that you can do. So the first solution is to simply find a play action play. So I'll call cross 3 fire again on defense. And now you can call any play action play in the entire playbook. It does not matter what it is. So I'll just go ahead and call PAX cross shot right here out of Gun Trips X Nasty. Now, you don't actually need to even keep the play action. You can still send your running back out on a route if you want. That is perfectly fine. Just simply being in a play action play is going to make it so that the looper gets picked up. And so if we go ahead and snap this ball, what you're going to see is that the looper just kind of turns inside and he never actually loops. That is just the way it works this year. I wish I had a better explanation, but just the way it works, the way the play action blocking changes the logic of the offensive line and its interaction with the defenders, the looper is just going to turn straight in and the O-line isn't going to leave a big gap for him to loop through. And so if you have a play action play then your opponent's loop blitzes are going to be completely dead. And once again, to be clear, you don't have to actually keep the play action. You can send your running back out on a route. You can send everyone out on whatever route you want, as long as it is a play action play. And you can tell pre-snap, because if you look at the play art of the O lineman, you see how the O lineman assignments, they're kind of like going forward, kind of like in a run blocking assignment, rather than dropping back. And so if you want to see a comparison, look at the O-line assignments now. See how they're dropping back to kind of form a pocket? When they're in the play action and they're in the run blocking assignments where they're kind of going forward at the snap, that is what is going to prevent the loop blitz from coming in. So you can see once again right here, that loop blitz has no chance, and you can just throw it to whoever you want. Of course, on that play, we're just kind of, getting the receivers out of the way. So that is the first method for blocking loop blitzes. But at the same time, you're probably like, I don't want to have to use only play action plays this entire game. Like, what if I want to use slot fade H wheel, the best play in the game? That doesn't have play action. How do I block loop blitzes then? And so in that case, here is the other thing that you can do in order to pick up loop blitzes. And it's actually really simple as well. And real quick, guys, I had to make a cut because Bosa and Mac with edge threat were just completely screwing everything up. But anyway, the second method for blocking loop blitzes is without using play action. So if you're in the play slot fade H wheel, which obviously doesn't have play action, you can still pick up loop blitzes, and all you have to do is double team the defensive end on the side of the looper. And so the way you know which side the looper's on is that pre-snap, you'll most likely see your opponent's user moving around. It's very rare that the user will just stay completely still. And when you see that user moving around, you know that the other linebacker is going to be the looper. And so with that information, we can now double team the defensive end on the side of the looper. And so if we go ahead to our blocking adjustments, which is to hold LB or L1, and my menu glitched out, of course, this time it's good. We're going to press down on the right stick for double team, and we're going to go over with the left stick and select that defensive end by pressing A on Xbox or X on PlayStation. And now we have him double teamed. And with him double teamed, when we snap the ball, what you're going to see is that the looper just kind of runs into the pile, and there's really nowhere for him to go. Of course, you still have to, make a read. You might have to step up in the pocket. But as you can see, the loop blitz no longer works. The loop blitz is no longer coming in. And so all you have to do is double team the defensive end. And once again, when your opponent snaps the ball, you can see that there is no gap for him to loop through. The offensive line picks him up. And of course, there might still be sheds from elsewhere on the defensive line. That's, of course, just part of the game. That's part of football. But at the very least, you will pick up the looper. And so if you're struggling with loop blitzes, either use play action or just use that double team trick, and your opponent's loop blitzes will not come in anymore. They will get picked up, and you'll have at least a few seconds in the pocket to make your throws. And finally, guys, that brings us to pro tip number 8, which is know how to bomb prevent defense for a one-play touchdown. Bombing prevent is really, really difficult, and if you've ever found yourself at midfield at the end of a half or at the end of a game needing a one-play touchdown and wondering how the heck am I going to do that, well, this is the route combo for you. And so let's talk about how you can do exactly what you just saw on the screen right there. And so the first thing that we have to talk about is that bombing prevent is pretty difficult. We can't set up our normal cover 3 or cover 4 bombs and have them work against prevent as well, which is why we need a unique coverage bomb to get guys open against this setup for a one-play touchdown. So right here, I'm in the formation gun bunch tight end, and you can call any play out of the formation gun bunch tight end. And gun bunch tight end is in several playbooks in the game. I'm in the Bucs playbook right here. It's also in the Bills. It's also in the Seahawks and several other playbooks as well. Now, the adjustments are going to be while making sure that you have your bunch receivers on the wide side of the field. And so right hash means your bunch will be on the left. Left hash means your bunch will be on the right. The adjustments are to put your inside bunch receiver on a corner route and then custom stem him up by 3 clicks on the D-pad. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go to your hot routes menu. You're going to select your receiver, hold LB or L1, and then 1, 2, 3 clicks up. And unfortunately, the play art glitches out, but that's what it's going to look like after you custom stem him up 3 clicks on the D-pad. Then you're going to put your middle bunch receiver on a streak. Then you're going to put your outside bunch receiver on an out route, and then custom stem him up 1, 2, 3 clicks on the D-pad. And once the play art stops glitching out, this is what the route combo will look like. Now, after the snap, the corner route is going to get wide open, and you just have to pass lead that ball up. And the pass lead up is important because, as you can see, the defender who initially came down to guard the out route, he is going to eventually recover. And so that's why you have to pass lead that ball up just to make sure that he doesn't have a chance to get back to that. But as long as you pass lead that ball up, you can see that this is an incredibly powerful way to bomb prevent for a one-play touchdown, and it's super, super consistent as well. And my favorite thing is that your opponent probably isn't going to be using it out there because your opponent is most likely going to be expecting some kind of post crossing the field. They're going to be sitting in the middle looking for someone to cross over the middle. Instead, we're going to surprise them by having our receiver break outside, and it's just like there's almost no way that a user is going to guard that. And so I initially used this route combo out of the play triple out, which is a popular play in gun bunch tight end. But ultimately, I realized that this route combo is even better just with a hot routed and custom stemmed up post route. It breaks a lot sharper, and it ends up being a lot more open, and honestly just a lot more throwable. And so this is how you guys can bomb prevent for a one-play touchdown. It is so powerful to have a prevent bomb. There's not every year that we have prevent bombs. And so to have a prevent bomb is really, really nice to have in your back pocket. And so if you're running a playbook that has gun bunch tight end, definitely make sure you have this prevent bomb. And of course, you can lab this route combo in other formations as well. I just know that it works the best in gun bunch tight end. So those are 8 pro tips that every Madden player should know. Remember, if you want to be the first to know all of the advanced tips that we put out every single week, then definitely consider joining the nearly 1,000 Madden players who have put their trust in us to help them win more games. Also, right now you can use code SPRUCE to get 30% off all memberships on the site. So if you're ready to take your Madden game to the next level, we'll see you over there at playbookprofessor.gg. But thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.